still incarcerated. It came as a personal experience for me because a good friend of mine, her son was detained, and I used to babysit this kid before I was arrested, and I felt that was one of the times that I felt ashamed, really ashamed of myself, and in so many ways I felt somewhat worthless because I just felt responsible for this kid, because as I said, I I babysit him, and being around different people in prison and knowing people's backgrounds, it's like I knew where this was going to head. So I knew the path that he was going to lead to. So I made a lifelong commitment to somehow give back to the youth. So I couldn't give back to him directly, but for me, my thinking was this is the least thing I can do. So if I couldn't help him directly, maybe I can help maybe 2 or 3 other kids. And also with that, when I went before the parole board, this was one of the commissioners' suggestion. He said, "Hey, I suggest you continue with this work, since I was granted parole." So, which I did intend to do, for the rest of my life, because it is a lifelong commitment. Next, please. Our time mentoring program is modeled just like H.I.R.E, since H.I.R.E is an evidence-based and informed-based model. So because of that, time is based on evidence. Our program is evidence-based. It's a combination of group settings, which could be a group setting of mentors and participants, or it could be a one-on-one interaction. Our participants will consist of youth who are involved with the justice system or who are at risk of being involved with the justice system. Since COVID, we could have it in person or virtual, or maybe a hybrid, both. The length of time with the program is dependent upon the participants. The reason why I say that is from my experience on being on parole. We were required to have a 6-month outpatient program. So we're basing on that for any of the youth that are involved with probation or whatever is required. So our program may vary. It could be a 1-day program to an 1.5 to 2-hour session, or it could be 6 months or a 1-year program, depending on the group. It could be weekly or bi-monthly. We will be covering various topics, in our workshop, which would include our personal childhood traumas, our life in prison, our turning points, and our reentry back to the community. And for those of you that have programs that are existing programs, we can amend our program to fit the needs of your program. So that is our model. Next, thank you. The T.I.M.E core components is twofold. First, for the participants, the mentors will be sharing the career advice, guidance, emotional support, their personal experience of substance use and gang prevention. And for the mentors, it will help us in our reentry in I'm going to say another twofold, because one would be it would be a living amends for us, and also to give back and to give back to the community and be part of the community in our reentry. Next, please. Okay. Our mentors. Who are our mentors? Our mentors come from a diverse backgrounds. Each has a unique story. We are mostly formerly incarcerated juveniles and or youthful offenders. And the vast majority of us have served life terms. We will be sharing a lived experience of, as I mentioned, childhood trauma, our life in prison, our turning points, and our reentry back into society. And our mentors will be screened to a review process with the criminal history, live scans, and interviews. Next, please. Our training programs for our mentors will include rules and expectation for our mentors, skills for our mentors, which will help them prepare to share their life stories, and preparation for question and answers. And all our mentors presentation, their life stories, and whatever they feel they want to share will be reviewed and approved and finalized by H.I.R.E staff. Next, please. For general protocol, our general protocol will cover ethics and boundaries and prohibited behavior. All contacts between participant and mentors will go through the H.I.R.E CEO or myself, the program coordinator, or our partner organizations. For confidentiality and safety purposes, all correspondence is to be screened to H.I.R.E. This is to protect the youth and our mentors. Next, please. Evaluating our T.I.M.E mentoring program, we'll be developing evaluation tools. We will be getting feedback from mentors and participants, which we will utilize to evaluate the success and improvements of not just our participants, but the program, for our program, for T.I.M.E, our mentoring program. Also, we will be encouraging our mentors and participants to periodically check in with H.I.R.E so we can track their progress and success. And also it becomes, in so many ways, it becomes a support group for not just for the mentors and also for the participants. Next slide. Okay. Well, for those of you that have organizations that have that works with youth, if you are interested, we would be happy and we look forward to working with your organization. So if there's any questions or any inquiries, or if I missed out anything, so I hope that Megan will cover it, since I am still nervous. So if there's any question, please feel free to ask any questions.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. I was going to say, does anyone have questions about the program?
Yeah, I did. Unless I missed it, is this is the program actually functioning now? Is it actually in place and working? And if so, how would a kid sign up for a mentor, acquire a mentor? How would that process work?
In terms of the program, I recently just recruited all our mentors. So in some ways we are developing, but we are on a step to start the program. In terms of the youth getting the participation, that's and that's part of the reason why this presentation, so we can share the development of our program. And we are hoping that organizations such as yourself, and they would somehow connect with us, and we can incorporate our program with the different programs, with the youth programs.
I I was going to chime in on that real quick too. So yeah, Fred, we're literally ready to hit the go button right now. We though, however, with our setup, I think as everyone knows, since we are pretty small still, our setup right now is we're more trying to incorporate into everyone else's programs. So if you guys have a captive audience or a program, we will then merge our program around your audience. So if you want us to come in and talk a one-time thing, we can do that. If you guys want to come in and integrate more into your program where we did like a monthly thing or whatever, we can do that. We can do it virtually or in person. At some point, we probably will have our own group. But right now, since you guys know we don't have a huge audience as far as like participants, we're more using you guys as participants for our program. And so that's what, yeah, Herb's launching it today to say we are ready for business. Let us know if you guys have a program, and then you'll hear from a couple of our mentors so you guys can kind of get like a feel for like what they present, what they talk about. So today, I forget, Herb, the topic is, what were they talking about? Juvenile trauma, youth trauma?
Yeah, childhood trauma. We'll be touching on childhood trauma, our life in prison, our turning point, and our reentry to society.
Okay. Perfect. So yeah, so you guys get a teaser. Go ahead.
I had one more question. Will the work be able to be done with in custody youth, or is it going to just be out of custody youth, or will it be both? Because if it's in custody youth, obviously we're going to have to work with probation department to go in and get people cleared to go in and find time slots, I guess, to do this.
So that is the long-term goal. I'll go ahead and answer. That is the long-term goal, to do in custody as well as out of custody. Obviously, with my entire group being former lifers, we have a little bit of red tape we got to get through first. So yeah, that's why we figured we want to launch it with out of custody first, make sure it's working, and then we'll be able to present it to probation to say, okay, here, we're ready to go. This is already going. It's working well. What do we got to do to get in? So, I mean, as you know, we work closely with probation anyway. So that is the goal, though.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Irv.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Irv. This was great. You did a great job. You never would have known if Megan hadn't outed you.
I was so nervous. And then I was like, I just text Nasli. I was like, he's killing it. I don't even know how to
You
say
couldn't
anything.
tell, seriously. Like you did way better than just being a slide reader. Let me tell you, I've been in, anyway, I just want to say, I think this is fabulous. And I am wondering, I know that you're just launching, but there are some agencies that provide services or training to youth with, developmental disabilities that are either at risk or have already had like a mild brush with the law because potentially they had autism and maybe we're doing something inappropriate in a target and everyone freaks out and but at the end of the day, if it's not handled on the preventative pre-side, it can end up being really bad long term. And so there's an agency that in Orange County that works well throughout the state, but I just wonder, I'm thinking automatically if that's a group that you'd be willing to speak with. I would think that that might be a nice connection. I'm thinking that might be kind of a unique connection, and it also might be able to help you not be a mentoring program for justice involved, but also be able to support, youth with disabilities, whether they're obvious or not. But the ability in some cases, and this is people without disabilities too, to understand consequences, of the system and of actions and things like that is even more difficult when you have extra layers that, may not be as obvious. So I just kind of want to put that out there and just wonder if that's something that you might be willing to kind of add into your curriculum or your own training so that you can help to influence, that group as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think everyone who knows me, which is most of you guys on this call, anytime there's a gap or a need, we're happy to explore that, right? And so obviously that would probably require different training or a different level of expertise, which not to totally out her, but that was the reason why I invited Shelly today. So we were talking this morning. She works in like kind of the mental health realm and that sort of stuff. So all of our mentors, the two actually you'll hear from today, which I believe you got to leave early, right? So we want to hop you on here real quick. Okay. So the two we have on today, they came to us trained. So IRV already recruited us trained people, but obviously we're going to get to the point where we need to bring people on and train them. So that's what I was talking with Shelly with this morning, is like, how can we then create that program to onboard them? So yeah, maybe there's specialized groups then that we do, right? So maybe it is for disabilities or, you know, other kind of things. The people who are speaking all have experience with like, or not all of them, but various levels of experience with like gangs, you know, substance use, all that sort of stuff, right? So we have people with like different expertises, and that's what IRV's kind of putting together our roster, if you will. So then depending on who the audience is, we'll kind of pull from our roster to be able to match up to the audience. We would love to hear about that. So with that, IRV, I'll turn over to you. Introduce, like I said, I believe Newt's going first, so I'll let you introduce Newt.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, our first speakers, one of our mentors will be Newt Vo. Just a quick background. My connection to him is to our spiritual teacher from prison. You know, he would teach us our meditation program, and even after our release, you know, Newt and also Oscar, we continue our meditation program out here, you know, with our teacher, and that's how I was able to meet Newt through my spiritual teacher. So with that said, Newt, you have the floor.
Okay, talking about nervousness. So bear with me. I'll just give you some context about myself. My name is Newt Vo, and so I don't know how far I should go back, and we're talking about childhood trauma here. I was born in Vietnam. I came to the United States when I was 9 years old. That was also the first time that I meet my father. When my mother was pregnant, he immigrated to the United States. And so for me, I think from a very beginning, maybe it's an internal thing, but I was a very shy and insecure kid. And I think coming to a whole different country, being exposed to a whole different culture, it intensified that. I didn't speak the language. And so I felt alienated by my peer when I was going to school. Of course, there was some level of bullying, but a lot of it is internal for me. I have a lot of self-limiting belief, not just my ability to speak, but my appearance, anything that kept me from actually socializing and get more withdrawal within myself. And that eventually lead me into gravitate towards the gang life, because the majority of the people that I was exposed with share the same ideology that I have, share the same fear. They felt isolated. They do not feel like they belong in this country, nor do they feel like they belong in a certain class. And maybe there's certain experience that taught them that, but a lot of it's internal. That's something I learned later on. And so I had this fear of not having power, fear of inadequacy, and I compensate for that, following the gang life. And what that did was it lead me to commit my crime when I was 16. And 2 young men were murdered. One was paralyzed, and another was injured, and a host of teenagers were traumatized because of the event. And I was arrested 3 years later, and I was tried and convicted and was sentenced to 3 life without the possibility of parole. That was my first time of incarceration. So my journey, when I start my incarceration, those fears that I had when I was young intensified. The thing that I resort to that have been working for me was aggression, with gang ideology, with grouping up, percent of community, building that ideology that I'm not strong by myself. I'm powerless. The only way I can gain power or respect is through aggression. And a lot of it was driven by fear. You know, fear can cause us to do a lot of harmful things. And I spent, I think, for the first 10 years of my life living that way. And I got involved in drugs. Basically, anything that give me instant gratification, I do it because I did not want to deal with the reality that I would die in prison. After around 2014, I think I was contacted by the Human Rights Watch, and they were working on trying to eliminate juvenile sentenced to life without possibility of parole. I was also contacted by the the Juvenile Innocent Sentencing Project. And so these people that contact me, where I'm at the lowest of my life, having no hope, tell me that there's value that you have as an individual, and that there's a lot that you can offer. Bear with me because I'm emotional when I get to this part. But I never really, I get praised a lot, but negative praises, you know, for doing bad things. But not praise it as somebody believing in a potential that you not yet demonstrate. So that kind of changed the course of my life in a way. And that was my spiritual path, learning about myself through meditation and Buddhism. I also learned a lot about myself when I joined the Positive Change Program, which I'm involved with Oscar, which we train rescue dogs for adoption. And I become a very good artist. I paint mural in prison. So all this thing reinforced myself, my sense of self-worth. At one point, I thought the best I can be is this person, this gang member. And that's what life was about. It shifted for me where I guess I rebuilt myself, gained my self-worth, and realized that I have a lot of power, especially power in influencing other people positively. And that, I think that's the key of my realization, that I realized that every choice that I made, although it's an individual choice, it have a ripple effects. Just one choice I did ruin community, ruin family. And so joining a program like this, being a mentor, also create a ripple effect in a sense, positively. And like Irvin say, it's all way of making indirect amends. I still continue to do that work. Just recently, I was involved in the Black and Asian Pacific Islander youth mural project in LA. So the city hired me to teach the youth how to paint mural. We paint a mural of solidarity. And we have a lot of inner city youth, especially Black and Asian, come together. And we basically paint this mural on Crenshaw Street in LA. That's where the heart of the conflict between Asian and Black were. So when I work with these youth and I look at them, I realize that if there was only somebody like me that I knew during my time of growing up, during my time of trying to find direction, give me guidance and support. And just give me this sense of, you know, that they're there. So I don't have to find acceptance somewhere else, you know, negative places. So I'm proud to be who I am today. Despite, you know, being here caused a lot of pain for others. But I know that there's a responsibility, like Irvin said, that I have to not only represent myself, but men and other men that are currently incarcerated. And the youth also, because they all have the potential to be better. So I don't want to keep going. I don't know how to, if that's what you guys wanted to hear. If there are questions.
That was perfect. Thank you. I realized So I know Newt, obviously. So I was like, I know he's going to get nervous trying to trail off there. So no, that was perfect. You did great. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your story. I was going to say, we'll probably save comment. Oh, wait, Newt, you have to hop off, right?
When I do, I'll let you know, because I'm at my tattoo shop right now. I have a client and they haven't came yet.
Okay, because I was gonna say, I was gonna save questions for the end, but I just realized if you're gonna hop off, if anybody had any like quick question or comment for Newt, I'll go ahead and open the floor right now.
I just want to really comment on how powerful not just your voice, but your body, your emotions convey the depth of growth and commitment and authenticity, right? That you understand the impact of your person, and you understand the labor of love it is to direct that energy and that power in a different way. And so I just really want to commend you. That was really incredible, and I appreciate your share.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is that Tim who hopped in late too? Yep, there you are. Okay. So yeah, I'll let you and Oscar flip for it then, who wants to go next. And thank you, Newt. I appreciate it.
You want me to go first?
Looks like it's you. Yep, Oscar's staying on mute.
Okay.
Looks like it's you.
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
I know, real quick, I know Oscar has to drive to work, so I don't know if Oscar wants to go right now.
I got
Oscar, do you
homework
want to
to
do it
do.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to you guys, whoever wants to go.
Oscar, what time do you have to go?
I'm sitting in my car right now.
I hope you're not driving right now. Okay.
No, not yet. Because I live in Koreatown and I work in Culver City. And depending on traffic, which in LA is usually there's traffic, it takes me around anywhere from half an hour to 45 minutes. So
do you want to hop on real quick to yours, and then we'll do Tim last?
Yes, please, if I'm able to.
Yes.
Hi everyone. My name is Oscar, and starting from well, just let me someone advise me just have a just have a conversation, engage in sharing my story, and as we were having a conversation. And some of my background, I grew up in the city of LA. I was born and raised in South LA, or South Central, and I grew up in a home where in my home we didn't use the word alcoholism. Yet the adults, my parents, there was a lot of alcohol consumed, and primarily in the weekends, during family events, there was domestic violence, verbal, physical, emotional. Growing up in this environment, I grew up very scared, little self-confidence. I developed the awareness or the sensitivity of detecting when my father was upset. And so there was this sense of being careful not to developing this belief that, or this view that I could provoke his anger, or that I was somehow contributing to some of the violence that was going on between that he was inflicting on my mother. Growing up in this type of environment within my home, I felt powerless. I felt afraid. In a lot of ways, I felt that I was there, but I really wasn't existing. There wasn't really a place for me there. I could be moved around at, I was a kid. So I really had no say so where I went, or just to sit there, just to be quiet. And my parents were immigrants. They came from Mexico in the early 70s. And growing up in LA in the mid 1980s and early 1990s, I felt out of place. I felt like Mexican Americans. I felt that I didn't belong there. And like like a new story or sharing of his own experience, a lot of what was going on was internal with me. This was the narrative inside of myself. I made myself, my experience, I felt like I didn't belong. I didn't belong there. And I felt that way in my home by feeling afraid. When I finally started going outside and in my early teenage life, even pre-teenage life, I felt afraid outside. Um, um, Experiencing bullying, fighting, eventually looking at local gang members as people who that they had something that I wanted, which I believed was confidence or power. They walked around like no one bothered them. Again, this was what I was telling myself. At the age of 12, I started to hang out with local guys. They were members of a gang. There was a local gang there where I lived. By the age of 13, I had joined that particular gang. Within a little bit of time, I was already on probation, removed from the school system and in a probation school. By the age of 15, I was in and out of juvenile detention centers, camps. By the age of 17, I had convinced myself that I could, in promoting the gang that I had become part of, that I could intimidate other folks, particularly other gang members, that I could pretty much do. I convinced myself that I could do what I wanted. And at the age of 17, I convinced myself that other gang members who I referred to as my enemies, that I had the right to hurt them. And at the age of 17, I took the life of another human being, telling myself that they were rival gang members, and they had that I had the right to hurt them, to the point of taking a life, a human life. At 17, I was arrested, sentenced, tried and sentenced as an adult, given 2 life sentences plus 8 years. I went to prison and I found myself afraid again. I found myself afraid again, believing as soon as I walked into prison as a teenager that I would never see the place where I was born, see the people that were my family, and that I would die in one of these faraway prisons that are in the middle of a desert somewhere. And my reaction was to join another gang, which was in prison. And by doing that, I sought to some sort of security or safety from other gang members now in prison. And obviously that didn't work. If anything, the more I transitioned to this new life, the more afraid that I became. The more I convinced myself that I had to protect myself, the more that I convinced myself that I had to behave in a way that would convince others, at least that's what I was telling myself, to stay away from me or not to mess with me. And once I analyzed it more, I noticed that it was having the opposite effect. If anything, it was just feeding what I was trying to avoid, which was being hurt. Living living in maximum security prisons as a teenager immediately introduced me to hypermasculinity in extreme violence, witnessing it, experiencing it, just being all around, having it all around, and just contributing to the fear. And that was pretty interesting once I started to spend time looking at it, because all this while I was looking to rid myself of it, of this fear, of looking for power and grabbing onto violence, thinking that would was the answer to rid me of this fear, to stand up for what I believe was. I believe that I was standing up for myself by doing those things. At least that's what I was telling myself that I was doing, as a way to get rid of my fear, as a way for me to get some sort of sense of importance, sense of removing shame of being what I thought poor, unable to provide for myself certain things, or things that I thought I should be able to have. And whether as a kid or as a teenager, and then a young adult. But yet none of these things removed any of those things. If anything, they just had me not talk about them. I developed into a person who became less capable of noticing these things inside of myself, which only increased those feelings, those emotions. And not until I began to sit down, convinced that I needed help, that I needed to change, that I needed to grow up. I remember early on someone telling me that they noticed in me that I cared, that I had something about myself that they said was kind, that was happy. And they told me that I know that you're hiding this in here in prison, but don't let prison take that from you or convince you to get rid of it. Eventually that led me to begin to seek work for me to discover this or notice this more, and begin the process of finding a way of developing this further, or not to allow this light inside of me to extinguish and turn off. And this brought me eventually in 2009 to meeting a Buddhist monk. And I studied with him for 4 years in a prison, in Sentinella State Prison. Once I moved from there, I was sent to another prison where there wasn't volunteers, and me and a group of other incarcerated human beings got together and created our own Sangha, our meditation group. After staying 2-3 years there, I noticed how they was benefiting other people. They were seeking something similar that they was seeking something similar that I was seeking. When I left from there, I went to another prison where I met another monk. I was lucky enough to meet a second monk who also helped me with my practice and developing this self-awareness. And I eventually came home. I was granted parole in 2019. And since then, I've been continuing my relationship with my mentor, also my friend, Venerable Ding Hong. And today I still participate in and what to me is very important, and which is sitting down and talking with formerly incarcerated folks, and just encourage them to in constructing their a life that's meaningful and it's giving back and bringing them into community, and into a society of human beings, and it keeps me connected with people like Newt Vol and Irv, that in my estimation are quality people, and people who I am proud to today. I am proud to say that it makes me proud that these are folks that I have something in common. Yet, even if it is this past of being formerly incarcerated, because of the human beings that they are today. But I'll end it with that. I would just like to say thank you for your time, and for allowing me space. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. So appreciate you sharing your story. And I'll do a little brag on Oscar too, since you guys heard he's going to work. But Oscar works, what is it? It's 3 jobs officially? Is it 2 or 3?
I work at UPS from 2 a.m. to 9:30 to 10 o'clock a.m. And then right now I work at LA Canines and at a facility in Culver City. And I also do dog training on the side independently.
And he's living on his own in LA, supporting himself with all these jobs. So as you guys hear his story, I just want to do a little brag on Oscar because he's doing amazing and balancing everything, and is going to be working as a mentor with us too. So we are super excited. So thank you, Oscar. I know you got to run too. So any quick questions or comments for Oscar before he gets on the road? No, good. Okay. Oscar, drive safe. We'll see you later. And 10, I think, Herb, just let me know, do you have to hop off? Also?
I do have a family problem. Not family problem, but something came up with the family. But I could help you with, I'll give you my story real quick.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So if I seem, well, I just got out of the dentist, and also, you know, this thing that just came up, so my mind a little preoccupied. But hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is T.I.M.E. At the age of 24, I committed a horrific crime. I took a man's life. I took Mr. Stankovic's life because of my greed, my life in gang, drugs, and you know, my criminality. And you know, but how did I become that monster? You know, that monster that had to be caged, and was caged, and was tagged, and you know, well deserved, because I was a menace to my society, to my community, and I inflicted a lot of pain on my victim family and my own family. But how did I become that person? You know, I still sit and think about that. You know what I mean? But the only thing I could pretty much make the connection is that, you know, it probably started with a young age. You know, when I was in the 80s, we was refugee family. We just kind of, you know, we left from the war. And of course, you know, that being said, you know, for my family and myself, you know, for at least for my family, you know, the war impacted us a lot. You know what I mean? I think impacted my father a lot, mentally, physically. You know, he had to move, but also mentally and spiritually. Once we got over here, I think I was one of the few family that in Pomona was Vietnamese. So, you know, during school, I was get bullied a lot. You know, I was small, and you know, I was different. So, you know, ching chong, you know, pulling your eye back. Do you know kung fu? You know, we get smacked around because they think I know kung fu. You know, that was the norm in my childhood. And coming home, you know, I mean, most I used to be envious of my American friends, You know, they come home to a happy home, and at least I assume they have a happy home. You know, but I came home to a home where my father was going through his own issue, his own mental struggle because of coming over here and reducing to somebody that had relied on his wife, to take care of him and not be able to be the provider that he was when he back in Vietnam. You know what I mean? And so a lot of that, I was at the right age for him to vent his anger. You know what I mean? My sister and them, they was young, there was girls, so he don't, they were females, so he couldn't, vent on them. Most of my older brothers older, so if he vent on them, they would just leave. So I was just a perfect age, right? And so he was pretty abusive. You know what I mean? There was he never hit me, socked me, fist and everything. But there's a lot of spanking. There's a lot of chopstick on my little hand. You know what I mean? A lot of people go, well, it's only chopstick. Yeah, where you get a whack with a chopstick with your little hand, it hurts. And I still remember those chopsticks. And but I think the most I remember is him never believing me. And I remember he whatever I do, whatever grab bring back, I was always like dumber than a cow. And if I bring back a good grade, I was just dumb as a cow. So either way, I was like, dumb. and I think that I took that to heart. I remember he's also tell my uncle, let's hope this boy is good with his hand because he don't have a brain. And so took it to heart and I wrote it. So I'll be good with my hands. And I found I also during that time I didn't have that much role model, and I think my mom was like the perfect role model. But I think growing up in a culture that was toxic masculinity and patriarchy, in a patriarchal perspective, we never as boy, we never looked at a woman as a role model. In hindsight, I look back, she'd be my perfect role model, hardworking, loving, caring, sacrificing, compassionate, empathetic, sympathetic, but I didn't look at that. I couldn't look at my dad because he was going through his own issue. So I look at my brothers. And I remember specifically how so some of these kids was across the street, older kids, high school kid was making fun of me, calling me ching chong and stuff like that. And my brother drove down the street. They stopped, they jumped out, and they hooked him up with those guys. And after that, these guys gave them respect. And they never get again call me ching chong and stuff like that. So I had an idea, because that's how you had to handle this. That was right. Use your hand. So I did. I used my hand, and that's how I resolved most of my issues, through anger. Through anger and hate, and with my hand and violence. At the age of 14, this time I'm ready. Have my turning point, my negative turning point toward more to gangs. But I wasn't a gang member, but more to like a hoodlum, juvenile delinquent. And I remember me and my three other friends, and my friend just got his permit, and we kind of took his dad's car, and we went out Pomona, went out to sea. That's where I was raised, in Pomona, California. And we went down to roast meat to this cafe where there's a lot of Vietnamese infested with Vietnamese gang member. And we were just kids. We went in there and we drank some coffee. We think that we're men's now, And I remember the waitress came out with a glass of milk, and indicating that we should go home because we're kids. And boys being boys, I got up and I kind of like raising my voice and say, take this shit out here, call her the B word. Her boyfriend didn't take too kindly that, and he was a older guy, probably 18, 19. He came over and he pulled out a gun and he shot my friend in the heart, my best friend in the heart. And he turned around and shot at me. I'm still thankful to this day that I survived it. The bullet missed me, but my friend didn't. He bled out and died there in my arm. And I never turned back after that. I never. I think to this day, I grieve a little bit, but I still haven't. I didn't attend to his funeral. I started using drugs to suppress my grief, you know, that my best friend had passed away and what had happened to me. I mean, these guys could have just took out in the parking lot and just beat us. Matter of fact, they could have spanked us. You know what I mean? That's how young we were. But they chose to kill us. And they did. I think they killed my best friend, and they killed part of me too. After that, I promise you, I never get caught slipping again. So now I'm carrying knife, you know, I'm doing stuff for the older guys, so I could get, you know, so I could obtain guns, weapons, stuff like that to you know, me to defend myself, you know, which I believe in, to defend myself. But in reality, it was just, you know, me to you know, a way of taking my violence to the next level. So during this time, from age 14, 15, all the way to like the age 18, I got really deep into the gang. And when I was 18-year-old, I was recruited by one of the major gang in San Gabriel Valley, you know, and I joined, and I became a loyal soldier, their loyal soldier ever since, until I committed my I think ever since until I'm almost 40. You know what I mean? So at age 24, you know, I committed that crime, and that horrific crime, and I took a man's life, and I took a dad away from his daughter, you know, and I can't give them back that. You know, I can never give them back that. You know, they grow up without a father, and that's the mentality I have lived the rest of my life. I was sentenced to life without a positive parole, and you know, I mean, with that sentence, you pretty much, you know, I mean, going to die in prison. You know, I mean, that's your thought of it. But so I didn't care. So the first probably like 14 years of my life in prison life, I still continued to be that proponent of violence. You know, I mean, that and gangs and prison politics and drugs and, you know, I mean, and criminality. But so I live in that cycle of violence for the next 14 years. And I remember somewhere in my late 30s, it was my birthday, and I was getting high, and my mom had a surprise visit for me, and she came out, and I came out high, and I remember she looked at me with tears in her eyes and her long gray hair, and she asked me when it would be enough. You know, I mean, you know, when I came visit you, I used to have long black hair. Now I'm white and gray. You know, I mean, when would be enough? You know, when would you say that, you know, it'd be enough? You know, I mean, and that's the beginning of my transformation. That's the catalyst at the beginning of my transformation. You know, I mean, it wasn't easy. I didn't. It's not like switch where I just turn up the lights and then turn it back on and I'm a changed man. I had struggle, I had relapse, but the first is that I started my sobriety. I took a day at a time, and I think now I'm 9 years clean. Yeah, I'm 9 years clean. And you know, then I look into the gang, slowly got away from the gang. And my criminality, I started following that change, each one a little bit, and slowly each one broke. In 2016, 2015, I met a dog named Vic, and he was a battle dog. He's a battle boxer. He was a bait dog. They used him to bait the pit bull, you know what I mean, into fighting. So he had bit mark everywhere. They smashed his paw because he tried to run. They put cigarette on him. And I remember he came in, he was really antsy. He couldn't like lay down, sleep for like 2 or 3 days. That's what his handler told me. And he saw me, he came over and he lay down, he put his big head on my lap, and I think Earl was there. He lay down, and I remember asking what's the significance of that, because trainer was like, "Oh my God, he's sleeping, right?" And I go, "What's so significant?" And he told me about the story, and how this boxer was abused all his life, and I identify with that, you know. And I hug him and I told him that I got your back, don't worry, you know what I mean. But in hindsight, it wasn't me, you know what I mean, watching his back, or which me nurturing him to become adoptable. It was the other way around. You know, he saw something in me that he knew that he could help me with, and protect me from my own destructive self. And after Vic, you know what I mean, I opened my heart, I took down all the wall that I built around my heart, and I find my humanity. You know what I mean? I find my humanity, and I am a member of life to now. I'm currently working at this center to train shelter dog become service dog for veteran PTSD, and for anybody with any individual with PTSD. I went back to school, got my AA degree, graduated with honor. Went back to, then Cal State OA came in. I was one of their first cohort, the pilot. And just last semester, I graduated with my bachelor's degree, summa cum laude, and applied for my master's degree, my MBA, and I was accepted, and I'm currently in my MBA program. So that's why I said I had homework to do, because I had homework due in 2 hours. It was a big homework, 50 points. But you know, for Irv and for you, Maggie, you know, I mean, I'm here. And yeah, I'd like to end it there. You know, I mean, my goal is continue to make my living amends, to be a living amends, to do my best to give back everything I can, because one day when my time comes and I go to heaven, because I believe in Christ, I want able to look at Mr. Stanko Volkovic and apologize to him for the crime I committed against him and his family. So that's my story. Bye.